Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are going deep on Amazon Sagemaker Unified Studio.
We are.
But even more specifically, we're focusing on the Lakehouse feature.
Yes, that's right, Lakehouse.
So for all you out there working with data on AWS, this is the Deep Dive for you.
It is.
Now we're going to be working with excerpts today from the Amazon Sagemaker Unified Studio User Guide. Specifically, those sections dealing with Lakehouse.
Right.
Think of it as like your one-stop shop for all the nitty-gritty details of Lakehouse.
Exactly.
So what exactly is Lakehouse? Why should we care?
Well, Lakehouse, it's really the bridge between your Amazon S3 data lakes and Amazon Redshift data warehouses.
Okay.
It's all about breaking down those data silos, and giving you this unified view of your data.
So it doesn't really matter then where the data actually lives.
Exactly. You can access it all from one place.
Now, the guide mentions these things called blueprints. What are those?
Blueprints are basically pre-configured templates that help you get started quickly. For example, there's a data lake blueprint that sets up a data lake environment.
Got it. Complete
Complete with an AWS Glue database and an Amazon Athena workgroup for querying.
So you don't have to start from scratch.
Exactly. It's like a shortcut.
That makes a lot of sense. And there are other blueprints too, right?
Yeah, there are blueprints for all sorts of things like setting up Amazon EMR on EC2 clusters or even EMR serverless applications.
Oh, wow.
Those are really useful for running like large-scale data processing jobs.
And the guide even mentions a blueprint for ML experiments.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
You can spin up an ML flow tracking server with just a few clicks.
That's the beauty of blueprints. They just save you so much time and effort.
So we've got these blueprints to set up our Lakehouse environment, but what about connecting to different data sources?
Well, that's one of the coolest things about Lakehouse. The diversity of connections is pretty impressive.
Okay.
You can connect to databases like Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon Redshift, even Google BigQuery, MySQL, PostgreSQL, and Snowflake.
Wow, that's quite the list. So we're not limited to just AWS data sources.
No, not at all. It's all about providing a unified data experience whatever your data lives.
All right, so let's say we've got all these connections set up. What can we actually do with them?
Well, the guide highlights several key actions you can do. You can browse metadata from all your connected data sources.
Okay,
You can preview data samples just to kind of get a feel for the data.
got it.
And you can even run SQL queries against the data.
All within Sagemaker Unified Studio.
Yep, all in one place.
That's amazing. So no more jumping between different tools and interfaces.
Exactly. It really streamlines the whole data discovery and analysis process.
Now, the guide goes into some specific examples of working with Lakehouse. And one section talks about creating a project specifically for exploring and analyzing data. They even walk through uploading and querying data.
It seems pretty straightforward. You create a project, you browse your connected data sources,
Okay.
you upload any additional data that you need,
Right.
and then you use the built-in query editor to analyze it. Simple as that. And they even talk about granting access to specific data in Amazon DynamoDB. So security is baked in from the start.
Exactly. They walk you through the entire process with security in mind.
Okay, so they're holding your hand every step of the way.
Pretty much.
And it's not just about exploring existing data, right? The guide also mentions data preparation.
Right, because before you can do any real analysis, you need to make sure your data is clean and ready to go.
And that's where Visual ETL comes into play.
Exactly. Visual ETL is this powerful tool where you can visually design your data transformations.
Okay, so we're talking drag and drop interfaces and stuff.
Exactly. You don't have to write complex code for every transformation.
That's awesome. And they have a ton of pre-built transformations too.
Yeah, they do, which makes it even easier to get started. But you can also add your own custom code if you need to.
So you've got all the flexibility you need.
Exactly.
And the guide even explains how to schedule and run your Visual ETL flows using workflows.
Right, which brings us back to automation, because workflows are all about automating that entire data pipeline.
Exactly. From data ingestion to transformation to analysis and model building.
So this is all pretty powerful stuff.
It really is. Lakehouse is changing the way we think about data management.
I'm excited to see what else it can do.
Me too. We're
Oh.
just scratching the surface here.
Well, stay tuned because we're going to dive even deeper into Lakehouse after the break. Okay, so we're back and we're ready to talk more Lakehouse.
We are.
So before the break, we were talking about how Lakehouse simplifies data exploration and preparation.
Right.
But what about actually getting access to the compute resources we need,
Yeah, that's a good point.
to crunch all that data?
Absolutely.
The guide mentions some specific steps for gaining access to those resources.
Right.
particularly if they're in the same AWS account as your Sagemaker Unified Studio domain.
Exactly. So if those compute resources are in the same account,
Okay.
your administrator needs to add specific tags to those resources. Things like the project ID and the scope name are super important for access control.
So it's kind of like giving those resources a special ID card so
Okay.
Lakehouse knows they're part of the project.
Exactly.
And once those tags are in place,
Yeah.
the administrator can provide you with the necessary credentials to connect.
Right.
So we're talking usernames and passwords and those JDBC URLs, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And the guide even walks you through the process of connecting to Amazon Redshift serverless,
Oh, cool.
which is great for data warehousing without having to manage any infrastructure.
So no servers to spin up, no clusters to manage.
Nope.
That sounds incredibly convenient.
It is.
And again, the guide provides those clear instructions on obtaining the access role, ARN, and the JDBC URL from your administrator so you can get connected within Sagemaker Unified Studio.
Exactly.
It's almost like they anticipated every possible scenario and gave us a step-by-step guide.
It's really helpful.
It is. They've also included steps for adding existing Amazon EMR on EC2 clusters and EMR serverless applications
Oh, yeah.
to your Lakehouse projects.
Right.
So if you already have those resources set up, you can just integrate them right into Lakehouse.
Exactly.
That's really convenient.
Yeah.
And of course, they emphasize the importance of having the correct permissions.
Of course, security is always paramount.
Always. They even give instructions for deleting those applications when you're done with them.
Right. Got to keep things clean and organized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've talked about connecting to data sources and accessing compute resources. But now let's talk about actually preparing the data.
Okay.
And this is where visual ETL really comes into play.
Yes. Visual ETL is super powerful for data manipulation tasks.
And the guide spends a lot of time explaining exactly how visual ETL works within Lakehouse.
They do.
We talk about the drag and drop interface and all the different data connectors
Right.
and the pre-built transformations that are available.
Yeah.
And of course, if those pre-built transformations aren't enough,
Right.
you can create your own custom transformations using SQL or Python.
Got it.
So you've got all the flexibility you need.
Yep. You're not limited to what's pre-built.
They also talk about the ability to preview your data at each step of the transformation process.
Oh, yeah. That's super helpful.
It's like having a built-in data detective
It is.
that helps you find errors before they become a bigger problem.
Exactly. Catch those inconsistencies early on.
And the guide goes even deeper by providing detailed explanations of each transformation. Like they cover everything from the aggregate transform for summary calculations
Right.
to the change columns transform for modifying column structures, and even the custom code transform for applying your own custom logic.
Yeah, it's a really comprehensive guide.
It is. And of course, they also talk about how to schedule and run those visual flows
Right.
using those trusty workflows.
Exactly.
So it all ties back to Apache Airflow
It does.
and the power of automating your entire data pipeline. From ingestion to preparation to analysis and everything in between.
It's all connected.
It is. And they even offer some best practices for using visual ETL,
Oh, yeah. Like what?
like starting simple
Okay.
and gradually increasing the complexity as you get more comfortable.
That's good advice.
It is. So we've covered connecting to data sources,
Right.
accessing compute resources, and preparing data with visual ETL.
Yep.
It's really starting to feel like Lakehouse is this all-encompassing data management platform.
It is shaping up to be pretty comprehensive.
But there's one crucial aspect we haven't talked about yet.
And what's that?
Security.
Ah, yes, security.
Always a big deal when we're dealing with sensitive data.
Absolutely. You can never be too careful.
So what does the guide have to say about security within Lakehouse?
Well, they dedicate an entire section to it.
Okay.
So it's clearly a top priority.
Good to know.
Yeah.
But what are some of the specific security features they offer?
Well, one of the key features is fine-grained access control,
Yep.
which lets you control who can see and do what with your data at a very granular level.
So it's not just about locking down the entire Lakehouse environment.
No, you can control access to specific data sets, tables, even individual columns.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. And they integrate with AWS Lake Formation too, right?
They do, which provides even more granular control over data access and permissions.
So Lake Formation is like mission control for data security.
Exactly.
And it works seamlessly with Lakehouse.
It does.
So we can enforce those consistent security policies.
Across your entire data environment.
What other security measures are there?
Well, they emphasize data encryption,
Okay,
both in transit and at rest.
got it.
So all data moving between Lakehouse and other AWS services is encrypted using secure protocols.
Mm-hmm.
And the data stored within Lakehouse is encrypted using AWS managed keys.
So even if someone did manage to gain unauthorized access,
Right.
they wouldn't be able to read the data.
Exactly. It's an extra layer of protection.
And they also mentioned multi-factor authentication.
Yes, multi-factor authentication is crucial.
So even if your password is compromised, you still need that second factor to get in.
Exactly, like a code from your phone or something.
So it sounds like they've really gone above and beyond with security in Lakehouse.
Security is definitely a top priority.
It is. All right, so we've talked about data connections, compute resources,
Yep.
data preparation, and security.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've covered all the bases.
We have, but now the real fun begins.
What do you mean?
Well, now we get to talk about analysis and insights.
Oh, yeah, that's the whole point, right?
It is.
And the guide talks about this really powerful query editor that's built into Lakehouse.
Yes, the query editor is awesome.
What can you tell me about it?
Well, it's designed to be really easy to use.
Okay.
You can explore and analyze your data using SQL queries.
And it supports all those different data sources we talked about.
Exactly. Data in your data lake, your data warehouse, even connected databases.
So no matter where your data lives,
Right.
you can query it directly from Lakehouse.
That's the beauty of it.
No more switching between tools. Nope. It's all in one place.
And the query editor goes beyond just basic SQL queries. Oh, yeah, you can do some pretty advanced analytics with it.
Like what?
Well, you can perform complex calculations, aggregations, transformations on your data.
So you can really slice and dice your data to find those hidden patterns and trends.
Exactly.
And to make things even easier, it has features like auto-completion and syntax highlighting.
Mm-hmm. Those are really helpful for writing and debugging your queries.
So it's user-friendly and powerful.
The best of both worlds.
But what about visualizing the data?
Yes, visualization.
Because a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
It is.
Does Lakehouse have any visualization tools?
It does. It has a built-in visualization tool that lets you create all sorts of charts and graphs.
So we can turn those complex queries into something that's easy to understand.
Exactly.
And we can tell a compelling story with the data.
Mm-hmm. Visualizations are super powerful for that.
What kind of charts can we create?
All kinds of charts, bar charts, line charts, scatter plots, pie charts, you name it.
And you can customize the look and feel of the charts.
Absolutely. You can match your branding or highlight specific insights.
So we can go from raw data to beautiful visualizations.
All within Lakehouse.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
It really streamlines the whole data analysis process.
it does.
So Lakehouse is shaping up to be a pretty incredible tool.
It is. It brings together data from different sources,
Mm-hmm.
provides tools for preparing and analyzing that data,
Right.
and ensures that it's all done securely.
We've covered a lot in this deep dive,
We have.
but there's still more to come.
There is.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of Amazon Sagemaker Unified Studios Lakehouse feature.
We are, and we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have, from data connections and preparation to security and querying.
Mhm.
But now let's take a step back and see how Lakehouse fits into that bigger picture.
Right, the AWS ecosystem.
Exactly. And the guide talks about some pretty cool integrations with AWS Glue and Amazon EMR.
Oh, yeah, those are key services.
They are. We've mentioned them before, but I
Yeah.
think it's worth revisiting them.
Definitely. So AWS Glue, that's all about data integration and ETL.
Right. Extract, transform, load.
Exactly. And then Amazon EMR, that gives you this managed Hadoop framework.
Mm-hmm. For those big data processing jobs.
Exactly. So how does Lakehouse actually work with these services?
Yeah, what's the connection?
Well, with AWS Glue, you can use Lakehouse to define your data sources
Okay.
and your target schemas.
Got it.
And then you can use Glue's ETL capabilities.
Mm-hmm. To move and transform the data between those sources.
Right. And it's all orchestrated within Lakehouse.
So Lakehouse is like the control center,
In a way, yes.
and Glue does the heavy lifting.
Exactly.
But about Amazon EMR, how does that work with Lakehouse?
It's very similar to Glue. You can use Lakehouse to define your data sources
Okay.
and your processing logic
Mm-hmm. And then you can spin up EMR clusters directly from Lakehouse.
to execute those data processing jobs.
So if I've got this massive data set that needs some serious processing power,
Right.
I can just use EMR without leaving Lakehouse
Exactly. It's all about bringing those AWS data services together.
under one roof.
Exactly. The roof of Lakehouse.
This is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It sounds like Lakehouse really is unifying data management on AWS.
It really is. And the best part is it's not just about integration.
What do you mean?
Well, Lakehouse is also extensible
Okay.
and customizable.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, you can create your own custom data connectors.
So if there's a data source that Lakehouse doesn't natively support,
Right.
I can just build a connector to bring that data in.
Exactly. You're not limited to what's pre-configured.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
And you can customize Lakehouse's behavior too.
You can, using scripts and APIs.
So it can automate things like data ingestion, data validation, even report generation.
Exactly. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
It sounds like Lakehouse can really adapt to any workflow.
It can. It's all about empowering data professionals.
So we've reached the end of our Lakehouse deep dive. What are your final thoughts?
Well, I think it's safe to say that Lakehouse is a game changer.
I agree.
It's breaking down those silos between data lakes and data warehouses.
Mm-hmm.
It integrates with all the other AWS data services.
Right.
And it provides a really robust and secure platform for working with data.
It really seems like Amazon has created a one-stop shop for data management.
To have. And the best part is this is just the beginning.
What do you mean?
Well, Lakehouse is still in preview.
Right, yeah.
So we can expect even more features and enhancements down the road.
That's exciting. It sounds like Amazon is really committed to making Lakehouse the go-to platform for unified data management on AWS.
They are. So if you're working with the data on AWS, you definitely need to check out Lakehouse.
Well, there you have it, folks. A deep dive into Amazon's Sagemaker Unified Studios Lakehouse feature.
We hope you enjoyed it.
And we hope you learned a thing or two about this powerful new tool.
Until next time, happy data exploring.